So today, we're going to explore the two kind of fascinating worlds of data science, all through the work of one person, Carl Gold. We're going to see how the everyday practical problems that businesses face are directly tied to some really dense theoretical research happening in academic labs. All right, let's dive in.
You ever wonder why your streaming service, or that software you use for work, or even your gym, seems to work so hard to make sure you don't cancel? I mean, it's not just about good customer service. The real answer is they are all fighting a single, relentless, billion-dollar problem.
And that problem, it has a name, churn. For pretty much any modern business that relies on repeat customers or subscriptions, churn is one of the absolute biggest challenges they face. It directly hits their bottom line and their ability to grow.
To put it simply, churn is just when your customers leave. And think about it. Every time a company spends a ton of money on sales and marketing to get a new customer, a churning customer can basically cancel that growth right out. That's why reducing churn is just as critical as making new sales, and why they're so obsessed with its opposite, customer retention.
So what even counts as a good number here? Well, some churn is always going to happen. You can't avoid it. But a healthy company is usually aiming for less than 20% annual churn. I mean, that's still losing 1 out of every 5 customers each year. And for public companies, the pressure is even higher. They're often targeting 10% or less. It's intense.
Okay, so with millions, maybe even billions of dollars on the line, how do companies actually fight back? Well, they turn to data. And to really get how that works, we're going to look at the playbook from a true expert in the field, Zuora's chief data scientist, Carl Gold.
And I mean this, he quite literally wrote the book on the topic. In Fighting Churn with Data, he lays out a whole framework for businesses to stop guessing and start using their own customer data as the ultimate weapon to keep their customers happy.
Now, Gold's playbook isn't about, throwing out last-minute discount offers. The whole idea is to be proactive. It's about a fundamental shift, moving away from simple satisfaction surveys to digging into deep usage data to see how people actually use a product. It's about educating your customers, not just selling to them, and using smart strategies like pricing tiers instead of devaluing your own service.
This 5-point plan, it sounds pretty straightforward, right? A clear, data-driven business strategy. But the ability to predict which customers might leave or figure out which features actually create loyalty, that isn't some kind of business magic. It's only possible because of something way more complex happening just beneath the surface. To get what actually powers these predictions, we have to kind of travel back in time. From Carl Gold, the chief data scientist in a boardroom, to Carl Gold, the academic researcher in a lab.
You see, years before all his work on churn, Gold co-authored this really dense academic paper at Caltech. It was focused on a machine learning method called a support vector machine, or SVM. Now, don't worry about the name. The important part is what he was trying to do. He wasn't trying to solve a business problem. He was trying to solve a fundamental math problem. How to make these predictive tools themselves more powerful and more accurate.
And you really don't need a PhD in data science to get the core idea here. His research wasn't about what to predict, but how to build a better engine for predicting, for predicting pretty much anything.
Okay, this analogy makes it super clear. Think of a machine learning model as an engine. Your data, that's the fuel that makes it run. Gold's research was focused on the hyperparameters, which you can just think of as all the complex tuning knobs on that engine. His work was all about finding the mathematically perfect way to set all those knobs to get peak performance every single time.
And this brings us right back to where we started, to these two totally distinct but deeply connected worlds of data science, both perfectly embodied in the career of this one person.
So on one side, you've got the practitioner. They're on the front lines, using all the tools to answer urgent business questions, like, hey, how can we reduce churn? Their entire focus is on application, on impact. But then, on the other side, you have the researcher. They're in the lab asking these fundamental questions, like how can we make this prediction engine even more accurate? Their focus is on building and refining the very tools that the practitioner will someday use. The work of people like Carl Gold really proves it's not an either-or question. That practical business playbook for fighting churn only exists because of deep, theoretical work that perfected the predictive engine in the first place. And that research, it finds its ultimate purpose when it solves real-world problems. It shows us that true innovation doesn't just happen in the boardroom, and it doesn't just happen in the lab. It happens right where those two worlds connect.